You think you're in love. The serotonin hits. The chemicals do their thing. Your brain becomes a confetti cannon of red flags and delusion. You ignore the weird vibes, the quirky rage issues, the subtle threats delivered through carefully curated memes. You tell your friends it's fine. You tell yourself it's fine. And then one day, it happens. You wake up and realize you're no longer in a relationship. You're in a hostage negotiation with someone who once cried because you didn't heart react their story fast enough. Having a crazy ex is like being haunted by a ghost that still pays for Hulu on your account. They're gone, but not really. Their presence lingers like emotional glitter, impossible to fully scrub off. They don't just exit your life. They exit like it's a Broadway finale, complete with emotional pyrotechnics, screenshots, and a sudden urge to text your mom. You think the breakup ends things. It doesn't. It starts the extended cinematic universe of your downfall. They pop up in weird places, a like here, a random accidental Venmo charge there. Suddenly they're following your dog's Instagram and commenting so cute, like they didn't once throw a succulent across the room over a misinterpreted emoji. At first, you try to be mature, civil, grown up. You imagine clean closure and respectful boundaries. Instead, you get tagged in passive-aggressive quotes, subtweeted into oblivion, and stalked on platforms you forgot existed. They don't just block you, they unblock you just to reblock you. It's performance art at this point. You start to lose your grip on what's normal. You second guess every move. Should you post a thirst trap? Will that provoke a text? Should you delete old pictures? Will that be seen as hostile? You start filtering your entire digital presence through the lens of, what will this unstable goblin interpret this as? Your Instagram becomes a hostage letter in pastel. You bump into them in public. It feels scripted, like they studied your route and casually appeared in the frozen pizza aisle holding a box of something suspiciously dramatic. Their energy is off. Their eyes sparkle with the threat of chaos. They say nothing, but their presence screams, I saw that meme you posted, and I'm considering retaliation. And then there's the mutual friends. Suddenly everyone becomes a double agent. They don't want to pick sides, which is code for we still follow their stories and sometimes laugh. You get updates you didn't ask for, who they're dating, where they went, what color their new hair is. You pretend you're fine, but your stomach does origami. At night, your brain betrays you. You scroll and see something, a post, a comment, a song, and boom. Your entire body remembers the time they cried for 3 hours because you liked a photo from 2014. Your nervous system reboots. Your trauma flares like a bad Wi-Fi signal. You lie awake analyzing why someone would block you, then immediately post a selfie captioned, healing. You try to move on. You go on dates. But your radar is off. Every mildly intense person reminds you of the emotional landslide you escaped. You see someone organize their apps by color and have a PTSD flashback. You mention your ex, and suddenly you're that person, the one still emotionally leaking. You spiral. You wonder if you were the problem. You dissect old arguments like crime scene footage. You reread texts like sacred scripture. You gaslight yourself into believing maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe they were just passionate. Maybe throwing a mason jar at a wall because you didn't want to watch their favorite show again was just quirky. And God forbid you start dating someone new, because now the chaos multiplies. Your new person becomes a target. Your ex starts lurking like a Reddit conspiracy theorist. Suddenly, screenshots are flying, your texts are under review, and your current relationship becomes a courtroom drama with zero lawyers and infinite drama. Your ex starts trying to reinvent themselves publicly. They become a healer, a spiritual baddie, a soft girl. They post carousel photos about growth and caption it with inspirational quotes they absolutely do not live by. One post is about peace. The next is a close-up of their middle finger with your initials carved into the nail polish. Then come the rebound stunts. They post with someone new, someone hotter, someone suspiciously identical to you if you squint. It's not about love, it's a psychological tactic. You're expected to see it, to react, to spiral. Meanwhile, they tag them in thirst traps that scream, look how fine I am after emotionally setting someone's life on fire. You consider blocking them on everything, but then you hesitate. What if that makes it worse? What if they take it as a challenge? You imagine waking up to a wall of texts and a TikTok diss track about your birth chart. You think you're paranoid. But then you remember they once drove 2 hours just to return a hoodie with a note that said closure. You try to talk about it, but Crazy Ex stories are like dreams. They sound fake when you say them out loud. You explain how they threatened to burn your playlist and everyone just laughs. You describe how they sent you an essay at 2 a.m. about your energy shift, and suddenly you're the weird one. It gets weirder. They might become chill, or pretend to be. They might comment something supportive on a random post, and for a second, you think maybe it's over. Maybe the storm has passed, but you know better. That is not peace. And the thing is, they weren't always like this. You remember the good parts, the inside jokes, the comfort, the fake sense of safety. That's what makes it suck. You're not just mourning them. You're mourning the version of yourself that believed it would work. That person is gone, buried under screenshots and Google searches for emotional manipulation versus passionate communication. Eventually, you realize you're free. Kind of. Not because they stopped being weird, but because you stopped reacting. You stop waiting for the next pop-up. You start going a whole day without checking if they viewed your story. You reclaim your playlist. You wear the hoodie without flinching. You start sleeping better. But the emotional hangover lingers. You date differently now. You trust slower. You check for red flags like a TSA agent. You flinch when someone asks your birth time. You worry that any minor conflict might turn into a podcast-worthy trauma dump. You don't fall in love. You tiptoe into it and keep the receipts. And when someone asks why you're so cautious, you smile. You say, just being careful. But inside, you're remembering what it's like to be emotionally held hostage by someone who claimed to love you, but also texted your dentist to ask why you canceled your appointment. You remember the chaos, the games, the mental gymnastics. You still have moments, late night spirals, a random scent, a playlist shuffle, and boom, you're back in the psychological minefield. But it fades faster now. You laugh, you cringe, you move on. Because having a crazy ex doesn't just suck in the moment. It rewires your brain. It turns, are they into me, into, are they going to hex my dog if I don't respond fast enough? You become fluent in drama you never signed up for. But you learn, slowly. You learn the difference between passion and instability, between attention and control, between intensity and actual care. And next time, you recognize the signs early. You run faster. You dodge the glitter bomb of emotional sabotage. And maybe you remember what peace feels like. Until then, you keep your phone on silent, your block list updated, and your playlist protected like it's state evidence. Because one thing's for sure, having a crazy ex absolutely sucks.